I just came home for the end of my internship here in the Netherlands. And I landed here yesterday from Italy, where I was able to spend 1.5 months working from home for a Dutch company after I finished my academic year. Now, in a couple of days, I will be in Luxembourg working for UBS, a great bank some of you may know. And finishing this past academic year, I got my admission at a master's in economics. I will follow the financial economics track at Tilburg University, which is a top 10 university in Europe and a top 50 in the world. I was living in Italy, my friends, super excited, great, wow, oh my god. And I was thinking, while I was coming back home with a train, that, damn, 6 months ago, my life was completely different. My life was completely different for the housing situation, for the work situation, for the study situation, just like everything. And it's crazy sometimes our life can change. And I mean, it's not a change that you actually make in 6 months. At least not in this case, it's not this kind of change. It's what can change based on what you worked before that wasn't working at that time. And this is the video I want to make for the people that now feel frustrated. Feel like they, and I want to talk to my past self as well. I would like to tell him, like, that hard work you put in is not wasted. It's going to come up. And you're going to come out of this, and the truth is going to rise up. Just don't give up. Right? And there's multiple researches that demonstrate that hard work and just being smart and whatever is not enough. There's gonna come a time in your life in which shit hits the fan, literally. Shit is the face. So, in this video, I would like to tell you a little bit about that, about what happened to me, the situation I was in, and how I was able to get out of it and thrive. 6 months ago, I had already been 6 months in the Netherlands. And in those 6 months, I had no legal house in which I was. None. All black market solutions. And in the first 8 months I was here, I changed 5 houses. 5. In the first house I was at, I stayed there for 2 months. And when I arrived by train after a week in an Airbnb close to the city, I arrived and the guy who would have rented the room said, "My sister is not living. I'm quarreling with her." Now, her sister was living in the room he was about to sublet to me. I was about to get a room from someone that was kicking his sister, out of the room. How much can you trust a person like that? Well, I was in those hands. And I was able to find that room after months of looking for a house. 3 days before the end of my Airbnb, I sent a desperate message on a Facebook group saying, "I'm willing to pay you X amount of money for just letting me put." That X amount of money was the average price for a room, like a 14 square room here in the city I am. Just for letting me sleep on the floor. That's it. No table, nothing else. One person replied. After seeing that desperation. Not because he had pity, probably, but because he could make something out of it. But that's how I got in. And I was 15 kilometers away from uni, a different town. And because of the strikes, because of everything, because of the fact that I couldn't study in that house, in those 2 months, the first 2 months, I cycled 1,000 kilometers. Now, I don't know how to put that on a map. I don't know how much it is, but it's a lot. It's about what it takes to come from my town in Italy to here. Up in the Netherlands. It's doable. It's not physically hard. What's hard is getting up every morning under Dutch weather and Dutch skies and say, okay, let's cycle 35, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then start the day, study 10 hours, then go to the gym, then cycle back. And maybe there's nothing I don't want to eat. You still have to go by at a few supermarkets. The only supermarket in that little town I was at that was still open till 10 p.m. Then I was in another house, second house, where I stayed for 3 months. It was shit. It was like I was under the roof, a small place. Just, I'm not tall, and I had to keep my head down, not to get hurt. But more importantly, there was no possibility of warming the room. I negotiated with the host, and she bought me a small electrical heater. You know, those ones that when they fall, or if you forget them on, they cause fires. Those kind of things. Last but not least, of course, I slept in a sleeping bag for 2 months. And it was at that time that I had to prepare for my exam session. Now, what I was doing here was a pre-master. For anyone who doesn't know what they are, basically, you apply for a master after you finished your bachelor, and you may get admitted directly, you may get rejected, or you may be admitted with the conditional that you pass all the pre-master courses. So, for example, I studied international affairs mainly, like that was the major of my bachelor's. I wanted to do economics. I did quite some economics classes plus some math and statistics. But since this is a very prestigious school, it wasn't enough. So they gave me some of their bachelor courses in order to do the master's here in economics. If I didn't pass even one of those, I could never basically apply for their master again. And I was out. And I had to prepare my exam session during a period in which there were minus 10 degrees. And I was walking out with the bicycle, cycling 35 minutes every day. 2 times. I got fever during my exam session. And I had 2 exams, and I failed one. I had a very short vacation home. Basically, I was studying. I met my friend once during the Christmas holidays. Then came here, studied. I had 1 month to prepare for that exam, and if I failed that, I was out. I lost that year. I would have lost that year. And in that month, I was preparing this very hard exam. That was, I would say it was not taught in the best ways, but I had to pass it. No excuses. In that month, I just worked for that exam. I was just waking up every morning, cooking my lunch, my rice, cycling to the library, studying for that exam, coming back home, sleeping, and repeating. And I just did that again and again and again. You know, when you do that, when you push yourself to that, to living this kind of life where you're apart from everything. Like your family is not there, your friends are not there. I broke up with my girlfriend 1 month before that. You know, you're alone, right? And you have this enemy in front of you. Whatever that thing is, you have to attack it. You have to work for that goal every day. Just if you have a hammer, you just hit the surface. Sometimes it does not matter. Sometimes you're very tired, but just keep hitting the surface. Just don't give up. And I thought about a lot of things during that month. I thought about, I don't want to go back home being a loser. That's what I would have been for myself. That's what I would have been for myself when I was also 1 month here. I had been 1 month here. And I had no safety for my place. I basically didn't know where I was going to live the next month. Because my landlord was like, I don't know if we can go on the next month. I have some problems. I told myself, like, how can I go on this condition? But I reminded myself that I was proud of me. That I was a guy that thought that could beat everything. That I was a guy that, man, you think you're stronger than me? Show me that, right? And I think that there's nothing better that can happen to a guy like that, to a guy like I was, than just some shit. Some hard times. Because there, you're like, now I have to prove myself that I'm that tough person. That I'm not going to give up. And I did it. I passed that exam. I found a better house, a third one. There was a fourth, considering the 1 week in August that I found in the other place. It was closer, not perfect at all. I was with an old Dutch lady that switched off the Wi-Fi when I was in a call because she didn't want to hear anybody talking at 8:30 p.m. But I was closer. I was 15 minutes. I stayed there 2 months, and then I met a guy from LA as well that told me, like, someone else in my apartment, in my flat, is leaving. Come here. And there I was. I found this room, which was the first legal room I found, where I was able to register and everything, in April. Okay? And I remember that while I was waiting for the results for that exam, that fucking wall I had in front of my face, that I applied for jobs. That I was like, I'm not gonna leave this country. Like, I came here, I'm gonna get something out of it. I'm gonna squeeze it. And I applied for jobs. One of them was in the Netherlands, other they weren't. And I got rejected for many. Right? I remember I was super excited. I did 3 stages of a Barclays interview. 3 stages of this, for this summer internship. And then I received an email saying, Andrea, I'd like to discuss with you, from the HR, I'd like to discuss with you your performance in the job interviews. And this very kind lady called me and kindly rejected me. So I was surprised. I mean, you're calling me to tell me no? But still, after the first shock, I was like impressed. I have to say, shout out to Barclays for that, because they made a good impression on me. I would come back. And I did another interview for a Rabobank subsidiary. Rabobank is the second biggest bank in the Netherlands. And I got an offer. And before I knew the result of the exam, I got that offer. And I was like, okay, at least I will work 3 days a week. I could tell them like how many days a week I would work, 3, 4, or 5, and I said, let's keep it to 3. Maybe I passed that exam, and I found out that I passed that exam. So at that point, I had to still do 2 exams with the same conditions as before. So if I failed one, I was out forever. And 3 days of internships that I didn't have before. But I was optimistic on my house situation. And it was still before I found this one. It was still before I settled in one with a contract. That's what it's about. That you have to play angry. You have to put your hands on the table when just risk of your hands being cut, knowing that you just have 2 of them. Because you just have 2 of them. The fuck are you gonna play with 0 hands or 1? Sometimes you have to risk it all. And my parents were super worried, of course. They were caring about my mental health state. And I just kept doing both. I learned programming in Python, which was a very exciting subject, especially for someone like me who never had a very technological background. I studied liberal arts in Lyceum. I did indeed international affairs, political science, stuff like that. A bit of economics in the bachelor's. You know, it was a different thing. And I have a ton of events that happened that made my life harder during these times. And 2 of them actually happened that month when I was preparing for that exam in January. One of them was that I was in this house where basically the floor downstairs was rented as an Airbnb. And this old lady came from Australia and was renting a room in Australia and was very angry at the tenants there and had a call with them at 2 a.m. One of the nights before I had the exam, I was like, girl, you can't do that. Like, to this 70-year-old woman with a lot of energy, apparently, especially at 2 a.m. You can't do that, girl. Like, luckily she didn't do that the night before the exam, and luckily another thing didn't happen, because my tenant that was living in that house as well was burning woods in order to keep the house warm, the room warm. And since I was right under the roof and the windows were a bit old and broken, the smoke was coming inside, and I woke up one night. One morning after the night, and until basically 2 p.m. I was like in hangover. My head was, because of the carbon dioxide I breathed that night. That was how crazy it went. You know, that's very bad for health. It is. And so I just want to tell to the people that, you know, may see me nowadays, may see me today, may see somebody else who got it. I don't know about them, but I can tell you about me. If you want to aim high, we're going to find some struggle. And you have to persevere through them. It's the meaning of life. It's the adventure. It's the most exciting thing you're going to remember. It's the most exciting thing that is going to give you the greatest pride, the greatest self-esteem, and the greatest mental toughness and strength to know that you can go through shit. And yes, right now I'm going at UBS. Yes, right now I already have gotten my internship before I finished my studies, and I got paid during that. And I'm going to Luxembourg, where I'm going to be paid more than my parents. And yes, I got an admission at one of the best universities in Europe and in the world for my discipline. But guess what? If you were me 6 months ago, 7 months ago, what would you have done? That's it. That's what you have. How do you react to life when bad things happen, when the unexpected happens, when the undeserved happens. There's no criteria of merit sometimes in life. Just things happen. You may have worked, you may have been the kindest person. Some bad things happen. And you're like, oh, I don't deserve it. Yes, you don't, dear. But guess what, honey? But sometimes it just works like that. It just happens. There's no particular reason. And you have to fight. And I can tell you, live that moment of your life as a challenge to yourself, to your strength. And use that moment to say, okay, I'm going to look at this time now, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 10 years from now, and I'm going to be proud of how I behaved. You might not win, but you might fight. And that's what I wish for you. Just a hard time when you can figure out how strong you are. When you can find resources that you look for in yourself that you didn't even know, that you didn't even imagine you had. You have it. Please, if life is hard, go. And you may help yourself with religion. A lot of people that believe in God, no matter what religion it is, believe that God gives you challenges in order to get closer to Him, in order to get stronger, to develop. But, you may or not believe that those things happen because God put them on your road. But they really can make you a better person, more useful for the people around you. Jordan Peterson always say, be a monster. You have to be a monster. It's going to be a benefit for the people around. Then you have to learn how to control it. But if you're not a monster, in some places you're going to get, some very dark places, you're not going to get out of there. If you're not a beast. If you do not become a beast, or if you do not discover the beast that's in yourself.